Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Yo to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, I know a lot of us really excited about some of the stories we're hearing at OTAs, right? Junior Colson looks amazing. Asante Samuel is ascending. And of course, Lad McConkey and Justin Herbert developing that BFF energy out there on the field. You know what? I think a lot of us follow these narratives and get excited about these stories because of the potential of what it could mean for the season. Who's going to be the next breakout Charger in the 2024 season, the first season under Jim Harbaugh? And I can think of no one better in the last couple of seasons in terms of breakout for the Chargers than Alohi Gilman, who just got extended this last year. He's going to fit beautifully into the new Jesse Minter defense. And his ascension the last couple of seasons has really resulted in the Chargers having one of the better free safeties in the NFL, and one that really fits the system, man. This dude's lean, he's mean, he's ready to pop you in the mouth. And it's one that a position Chargers fans were kind of worried about. All of a sudden, with his ascension, the Chargers can breathe a little easy. We got ourselves a stud at safety. Who's going to be that next guy? What is unfolding at OTAs pretty soon enough, training camp, that could give us some early signs of our top breakout candidates, which is going to be my predictive video today. I'm going to predict who I think is going to be breaking out in the 2024 season. I got some awesome names on here, some rookies and veterans alike. At the situation changing, the Jim Harbaugh system, the Jesse Minter, even the Greg Roman is going to benefit a lot of these players to the point where I think we're going to see some big improvement in 2024, maybe even breakout potential for the Los Angeles Chargers in this season. So before we do kick things off, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $250. Newcomers take advantage of the Anthony Edwards special this week. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. Lights, camera, action. My top 10 breakout candidates for the Los Angeles Chargers in 2024. And I view this almost as an alchemy, right? You got a certain chemistry that's got to go into the works, a player's talent and potential, circumstance. There's a lot of things that go into the melting pot that creates a good situation for a Chargers player to break out. And I do think there's a lot of guys out there that carry the potential with Jim Harbaugh in particular. This environment is the perfect melting pot to get the best out of your players in terms of talent and potential. And it's one of the biggest reasons I think I wanted Jim Harbaugh on this team. Everywhere he goes, he seems to squeeze every drop of that talent out of his players to help them achieve the best version of themselves and ultimately success with their team. Now, to start this list off, it's going to be a name that I wanted to put a little bit higher, but it's one that I think I myself and many other Chargers fans are going to have on this list in Brendan Rice. Now, I didn't put him too high because I do think this is more of like a sleeper selection, right? We don't quite know what his potential or role is going to be with the team quite yet. There's a lot of competition in that wide receiver room all of a sudden, and it's going to be a little bit busy out here trying to get targets from Justin Herbert in a run balance offense all of a sudden. But I'm going to throw my flag down, man. That's what this video is about. We're having fun, but also figuring, who I think my gut is telling me is going to stand out in camp, is going to stand out in the season and perform better than all of us expected. I think Brendan Rice is near the top of the list for me, of course, number 10 on this list, but one that I think is definitely going to overperform. And what a lot of people had expected of him, especially through the draft process, man. I think a lot of people had a 3rd, 4th round grade on him, but nobody took the leap other than the Chargers in the 7th round. I think that lit a fire in the belly of Brendan Rice. I think the more I'm watching him at OTAs, his connection with Justin Herbert and backup quarterbacks, Easton Stick, Max Duggan. Is it Bauman as well, the other backup quarterback out there? They're finding some connections too. I think Brendan Rice is showing a lot of availability, which is what we're excited to see. Now, one big asterisk next to his name that I think he's going to have to overcome, at least from what I'm telling, his acceleration needs a bit of polish, right? Help him out in the separation category just a little bit. But he does have pretty nice routes. He does have pretty nice footwork. He's got to work on that get off a little bit if he can help it. But either way, I feel like Brendan Rice has as good a shot as anybody to climb the depth chart and maybe challenge for wide receiver 4 in 3 reps, even as soon as 2024. And I believe so much so in that I'm going to throw my flag down in this 2024 Breakout Chargers video. Hey, you may see his name again in 2025 when we do this video inevitably once again in that season. But I think Brendan Rice really sticks out to me as one of the biggest sleepers on the roster. We're all rooting for you, Brendan. I know your pops is out there working you hard, getting you hyped, getting you fired up to try and climb as high as you can with the LA Chargers in 2024. Next up, a name long forgotten by myself and Chargers fans, because you know what? The dude was on the back of milk cartons last season. Where is JT Woods? Where did you go, bro? We don't still know anything. Like, I remember, his rookie season's been underwhelming. Last season, what the heck happened? The dude was just absent, right? Marked absent every day of the year. We had no idea why. At first, I felt like he was injured, that he had an undisclosed offseason injury that was keeping him off the field. Then I thought he might have been sick. I thought he came down with the vid. That I don't know if that happened. Either way, JT Woods was definitely not present for the Chargers last season. I think a lot of us forgot about him. And you know what? At a point when I was making this video, I didn't know if I wanted to put JT on here because a lot of us have kind of already listed him as a bust, But then I got thinking a little bit more. It's a change of environment. We got Jesse Minter in the house. We really only have this guy's rookie season as any sort of sample size, which, to judge a player just by the rookie season isn't always the wisest decision. It got me thinking that maybe JT Woods could find himself in a situation where he could prove to us why he was drafted so high by Brandon Staley a few years ago. Let's go ahead and remind ourselves that he wasn't part of the Jim Harbaugh, Jesse Minter vision. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have something to offer. You guys will remember when he was drafted, a lot of us were excited about, the intangibles. He had the height. I think he's like 6'2". He's got great speed on him. And he got a nose for the football, man. He's got some ball hawking instincts. And that is something that I think Jesse Minter's going to be able to work with. But more so, the reason his name is on this list is because somebody at safety is going to have to step up. And that is because Derwin James and Alohi Gilman, in my opinion, are going to be moving around a lot in this new Jesse Minter defense, right? You're going to see those dudes patrolling the middle, the slot, maybe sending Derwin, both of them at some point, some blitzes. You're going to have to find a guy who can still patrol up top. And right now on the roster, it's AJ Finley and JT Woods with those responsibilities. I would like to see a story, a version, a land of Chargers, fandom that supports the number 22, if at all possible. What if JT Woods, in this situation, after a couple of years in the league, finds his footing and gives us a nice up-high safety that can play in the absence of Derwin James when he's moving around? I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity to do so. That's just me. I think there's going to be a lot of safety play, a lot of reliance on those backup safeties. And, both of these guys have as much, and AJ Finley as well, has much potential as anybody else. But I think JT Woods carries some of the intangibles that, with some coaching, could stand out as a special player on the roster. Okay, so JT Woods, a bit of a flyer, I'll admit, but I do think it's one that would be it'd be very cool. It'd be very, very cool if JT Woods would decide to break out this season in a year that I think backup safety is going to be pretty important. Let's move on to another DB on this list. At number 8, I've got the rookie Cam Hart. Yeah, you're going to see a couple rookies on this list. We already have, Brandon Rice up there. I think Cam Hart is going to have himself a bigger role than even I had anticipated when he was drafted. Now, the situation with the Chargers defensive backs right now, cornerback more specifically, is that we don't got enough. We don't know what the situation quite looks like yet because of the unknowns of the opposite corner of Asante Samuel Jr. Now, Asante is having himself an offseason already, right? He's one of those standout, talented OTAs, been turning heads. He's looking absolutely fantastic going into his last year of his rookie contract, whatever hand that might play. We got a nice cornerback one in Asante Samuel Jr. Opposite him, a lot of questions, right? We don't know if it's Christian Fulton, the new free agent acquisition. We don't know if it's Dean Leonard, the couple-year, Charger on the roster now, great special team standout. Is he going to be, the guy that plays the outside for the Chargers this season? I don't know. And then you got guys like, Tareem Still and, yes, Cam Hart that's going to be competing for snaps at corner. Now, I would view the competition as 3 deep at the opposite corner of Asante, right? At this point in time, I believe the nickel position, your slot cornerback, is going to be fulfilled by Jasir Taylor. I think he's got nice run defending skills, and he's been pretty solid the last couple of seasons filling in. I think that kind of feels pretty good to me. Him and Tareem Still are going to be the dudes duking it out for the slot position there for nickel. On the outside, it does feel like it's going to be one of 3 guys. Christian Fulton, who I do think has the lead right now in terms of potential starter, opposite Asante Samuel. Then you got Dean Leonard and Cam Hart. I feel pretty confident that Cam Hart is going to be one of those dudes that ascends a lot quicker than a lot of us feel. And does that mean he's going to be the starter to kick off the season? Is he going to be the dude opposite Asante right away? No, but I see this guy is climbing because his intangibles, yes, are something that get me excited. He's 6'3", right? Very tall. He's got decent speed on him. He's got a good nose for the football. But more so, I feel like the competition between him and Dean Leonard and Christian Fulton is going to allow him to get better throughout the offseason. Is going to, sharpen his skills as a ball hawk. I think is something that I would like to see improved a little bit. But more importantly, it's going to show us why he was drafted by the Chargers when he was, and why he was graded by so many people. What was it, in the 3rd or 4th round? He can be that kind of story that you see often in the NFL where these mid-round dudes just ascend to stardom. I like the potential here. I'm not quite as certain as to what his fate could be with the Chargers. That's why he's at number 8 for me. But it's one that I think, hey, if he can beat Dean Leonard, if he can beat Christian Fulton, this could be a surprise talent opposite corners of Asante Samuel. A nice, tall dude to help us combat a lot of the big physical wide receivers we're seeing in the league right now. All right, let's move on to number 7, a player that, again, much like JT Woods, the milk carton situation catches us off guard. Where's Tito Ogbonnia been? Right? I think a lot of us liked the potential in him when he was drafted as a rotational guy. Hey, let's bring this dude in versus the run. He's awesome. He's big. He's strong. He's really good at taking down ball carrier, filling up space. He's awesome in a lot of different ways, but the dude just hasn't been able to stay on the field. When he's on the field, he actually doesn't look too bad. But we need his butt to stay on the field, and I think this could be the season that helps that happen. Again, a lot of changing of the guard this year for the Chargers, including Ben Herbert coming in here to keep our players healthy. That's a big part of what Chargers fans have been begging for many seasons now, is a way to keep these players healthy, right? Let's get someone in here that knows what they're doing, and Ben Herbert's going to offer a lot of these guys a second life in that situation. We got another big player on this list that is going to be leaning very heavily on Ben Herbert this season. Tito is certainly one of those guys for me. The Chargers at nose tackle don't really have a whole lot of options. You can see Puna playing there. I've seen him listed at end a lot. I've been seeing him listed, at nose tackle here and there. I think Puna, for me, is kind of the first guy. But there is a world where Tito could be looked at as, hey, you're kind of the dude in the middle. You're eating up space. You and Puna and Morgan Fox are going to have a big job in the middle, creating that space-eating, aspect of the line to free up Bosa, Mack, Tooley, and now Bud Dupree, right? The edge position looks nasty. You can get a lot of help from nose tackle if you got the right guy in there. And I think Puna and Tito are going to be those dudes. Tito, to me, has a lot of breakout potential. I think being out there with Puna is going to help him a lot. But more so, I think we're going to need him this year. I think he's going to get played a lot. I think the Chargers, they know they got to get better versus the run. And right now, I would view Tito as maybe one of our best defensive linemen to accomplish that. Sure, he's not polished as a pass rusher. Sure, there's other aspects of his game he needs to work on. But I think the call is there, man. He's going to have to answer it. And I think because of that, the situation with Jesse Minter, with the rest of that talent on the defensive line, my goodness, at edge, I think it's going to help Tito shine here a little bit in 2024. So, Tito Ogbonia, I'm rooting for you. And it's a talent that we need this season. We need him to show up. We have to find some talent in the middle of that line to plug up the run. Next up at number 6, nearing the top 5. The Chargers just signed Hayden Hurst to the roster. I would view more as a bridge tight end because to me it felt a little ridiculous putting a 30-year-old tight end as a breakout candidate for the Chargers in 2024. But the more I thought about it and the more I looked at the system, the scheme, the Greg Roman aspect of things, the more it made me think, is it hard to believe a tight end, even at the age of 30, not succeeding in this system? And even if Hayden Hurst ends up being a bridge tight end, right? Let's say he only stays a year or two and the Chargers draft a guy next season or bring in a new name next year, whatever. I think the tight end position is going to see a big boost in usage a lot, not just in terms of blocking. You're going to see plenty of that, but as a receiver, man. And right now there's 2 guys at the top of my list that's our lead receiving tight ends, and Hayden Hurst and Donald Parham. And Hayden Hurst to me is tight end 1 in that category. Sure, he's going to be a great pass blocker. Will Dissly, the best, one of the best run blocking tight ends in the NFL, but I think these guys are going to get used, and I think they're going to get used a heck of a lot. And when you take a look at the stats, right? Justin Herbert last season, last several seasons, we've been wanting to see him connect more with the tight ends. I think Gerald Everett ended up going for like 400 yards and a handful of touchdowns. You could say the same thing about Hayden Hurst, right? In his previous few teams, I think his career season came with the Falcons in around 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. I'm going to say this is a big year for Justin Herbert and Hayden Hurst in terms of stats. In boosting those numbers, right? I could definitely see Hayden Hurst in and around the realm of 600 to 800 yards and way more touchdowns, just because this system and this scheme is probably going to use the position way more than his previous few teams. The Panthers, was it the Bengals for a very short stint, and the Falcons, and the Ravens, of course. He's been everywhere. I think he's going to be leaned on a lot. I really do. And Justin Herbert, at the same time, he's going to be put in a lot of positions where, hey, the tight end is probably the best option out here. We're running a lot of tight ends, right, all of a sudden. We got 2 or 3 of them out there on the field. You're going to have to find, in a play-action situation, an audible situation, one of those guys open. I think Hayden Hurst is probably the dude that's going to offer you that target. So I'm going to throw my flag down there. Again, I'm not as confident in that one because he's a little bit older. The Chargers, we still don't know what the new system's going to look like. But it just feels like tight end's going to get that boost. The position's going to get that boost. And I think Hayden Hurst is going to be a big beneficiary of that. Now moving into the top 5. Director, who are you putting your chips on, right? Who are you throwing down for? Who do you think is going to be a big breakout candidate for 2024? I'm going to invite you guys in the comment section to also answer that with your kind words. At number 5, I got Quinton Johnston. This, again, another guy that I could have seen being pretty high on the list, right? We've heard a lot of stuff out of OTAs. We've heard a lot of talk behind the scenes with Joe Ortiz, with Jim Harbaugh, about the potential of Quinton Johnston and why he was selected so high last year, why he was even on the radar of the Ravens last season, why he has every opportunity to become the Chargers' next big thing at wide receiver. His biggest element that's holding him back right now is, of course, his hands. He needs to figure out how to hold on to the gosh dang football and catch with those hands instead of his body. Now, that is something that is coachable. I know a lot of people may think, it's a trait. It's something that it comes with the package. You take it or you leave it. You don't get Quinton Johnston without that weird quirk that he brings. No. What do you think the job of a Jim Harbaugh is? Of a Greg Roman, of the wide receiver coach out here, right? It's to nip that in the bud. It's to improve those weak aspects of his game and create a completeness in the player. And that's why I think, especially in this situation with catching, I think that's very coachable. I think you put him enough time in with that jugs machine, I think you're going to improve, right? I think Quinton Johnston has a lot of elements to his game that many of us have forgotten because of the tragic season that he had in his first year, which, mind you, a lot of players have this. A lot of wide receivers, including Chargers players very recently, like Mike Williams. He sucked his rookie season. He came back the next year, and he had a really good year. Did he have like 10 touchdowns that season? I don't remember. He went crazy. He went absolutely nuts his second season. I think Quinton Johnston has a lot of potential for that. I think this new system's going to help him out a lot. I think a lot of the things that we saw in him as a rookie that got us excited are going to be allowed to shine, because his biggest, I think, holdback from last year was misuse. Quinton Johnston was not being used as Quinton Johnston. He was being used as Mike Williams. They are not the same player at all. Quinton Johnston, you throw him in the slot, you throw him in a slant, you get him some space to operate. He's a yak player, man. You don't throw him in a one-on-one outside situation. You don't give him a 50-50 ball, as half of his targets every year. You put him in a situation where he can create space and take off. And I like that a lot. I think Quinton Johnston's potential in this system, because again, this is now a run balance, he's going to see some more space. Teams are going to have to respect the run, and that's going to benefit Quinton Johnston a lot. So again, I wanted to put him a little higher because I actually do believe Quinton Johnston's going to see a pretty solid bounce back this year. I really, really do. But we got to see those hands improve, man. We've already seen some footage in OTAs of him bobbling it a little bit. We need to see that improve. If he can smooth that out, get like 50% better than last season, I think he's got a lot of potential to be a pretty nice weapon for Justin Herbert going forward, okay? Use the man correctly, which I think Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, these guys are going to know exactly how to use Quinton Johnston, not force him to be Mike Williams 2.0. At number 4, and this is a player that I'm starting to feel very, very, very confident in his ability to be a big name with the Chargers. At number 4, this might shock some of you guys. The next couple of guys might shock you. I got J.K. Dobbins, ex-running back of the Baltimore Ravens. We got a couple of those on the roster all of a sudden, right? Him and Gus Edwards step into the fold as the guys in a new run-heavy, run-balance offense that's going to feature a lot of change for this team. This is a big swing, dude. Like, going from what we've been for so many years, not just with Justin Herbert, mind you, but like Phillip Rivers, that era, all the way back to Drew Brees. I mean, there was a while there with LT, sure, but this team's been a gunslinging team for a long, long time, right? This team's been a high-flying passing offense for a minute now. And to take that dramatic of a shift is a pretty bold move. I'm not going to lie, it is a pretty bold move. But it's one that's worked so many times for Jim Harbaugh, okay? And it's one that's been such a success story for him that he knows how to mold it, how to grow it, how to nourish that ideology and that offense pretty much wherever he goes. And there's going to be beneficiaries, just like I talked about with the tight ends with Hayden, Hurst. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to see one of the rarest things you see in the sport of football, and that is a premium second chance, right? I think one of my favorite stories of the last few seasons has been Baker Mayfield. The dude went from, the finally the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns to a journeyman going around the league with the Panthers and the Bucks, and then with the Bucks finding new life as a pretty serviceable quarterback in the right situation. I love stories like that because talent doesn't go wasted. J.K. Dobbins, to me, is one of the ultimate examples of that. Dobbins was looked at as the next big thing in football at the running back position. This wasn't just he's going to be fun to watch. He's going to be, that Dameon Pierce element where he's exciting. He flashes for a season and then he gets forgotten. No, this was a pretty, high caliber name in his draft. This was a pretty high caliber player with his team. Unfortunately, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And like I talked about with Tito, he's going to be leaning very, very heavily on Ben Herbert, a huge aspect of this new regime. Ben Herbert is going to offer J.K. Dobbins the best opportunity possible to stay healthy. And when J.K. Dobbins is healthy, man, he's a freaking stud. Go back, dudes, trust me. Go back and watch some friggin' J.K. Dobbins highlights. Just any footage you can find on YouTube and see how he operates. The man is absolutely insane. He's got a Saquon Barkley kind of element to his game. The man would have been a star if he stayed on the field longer. If he stayed on the field for half as long, as he missed games, he would have been like one of the next big things at the position. He just couldn't stay on the field. He was sharing time with Gus Edwards. A lot of things working against his ascension, mainly health. Now you enter the Chargers fold, and this is something I've been talking about a little bit that I wouldn't be shocked about. We're going to do a separate video on my rising stars or my sleepers that are going to, climb the depth chart. I think J.K. Dobbins has as good a shot as anybody to be the featured running back of this team. He's so good, dude. No, he's not going to have the same, speed maybe. He's not going to have that same, movement because the injury history has been so extensive, but he is so freaking talented that if he were to take RB1 snaps at some point in the season, I wouldn't be the least bit shocked. Him and Gus Edwards, if you watch the time in Baltimore, you saw a lot of that. They kind of played the hot hand. Some weeks it was Gus, some weeks it was JK. I think JK has all the talent in the world to be a number one running back in the league. He's amazing. And this second chance story is one that I want to see fulfilled. JK is an awesome talent. He's a lightning bolt, man. Right now, I love to think of it. I'm going to make a meme of this. Maybe I'll even make it one of my, animations I like to do in my live game streams. We got the lightning in J.K. Dobbins, and we got the thunder in Gus Edwards, man. You hit him with a little lightning, a little thunder, you know what I mean? That 1-2 punch, it feels nice, but I think J.K. Dobbins, he may be one of those fan favorite names by the end of the season if he can stay on the field, man. I feel very strongly about that, all right? Got to move into my top three. At number 3, again, maybe a name not a lot of you guys thought about. Maybe a guy that's going to shock a lot of you guys in terms of what, I could have picked out here. At number 3, in the very, high merits by the director, I got an offensive lineman in Zion Johnston, dude. Now, you guys get it by now, right? We've danced this dance a few times with a couple of different players. Hayden, Hurst, J.K., Quinton, Johnston, situation's going to dictate success for players in very many different circumstances, right? Mainly playing to the strengths of certain players in certain systems really benefits them. Zion Johnston, all of a sudden, is going to be put in a very good situation. Not only do I think the system's going to really gel with him, not only do I think he's going to be a really, really good addition to this line for what we're trying to accomplish, but I don't know if you guys have seen a photo lately. I should have gone and looked for one for this. I'm going to go do that right now. Hang on. There it is. This dude, I don't know what they've been feeding him. I don't know what sort of workout program he's been on, but the dude is absolutely friggin' jacked, man. He's been on some sort of off-season program where he looks like the power guy that we're looking for, right? The man gap system guy that we're looking for. And he looks very ready to be injected into the system and succeed. Now, a big reason I do think that I have him so high on this list, though, is situation with his head coach. Jim Harbaugh, there are certain coaches that whisper to certain positions, right? There's a lot of guys out there you would consider a quarterback whisperer or a wide receiver whisperer. Jim Harbaugh is the offensive line whisperer. I don't know what it is about him, but everywhere he goes, he finds the very best version of every offensive lineman on his team. And the Chargers have some good ones to go through. Even before drafting Joe Alt, we had some awesome offensive linemen. Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnston, probably the two top ones. We got Jamari Sawyer in here as well. He liked Trey Pipkins a lot. There's some dudes in here that he can work with. Zion Johnston, to me, carries some of the highest potential that isn't super obvious, right? I think Rashawn Slater, he's not on this list because he's not a breakout. We know what he is. Zion Johnston, however, a first rounder that has a lot of potential, that was drafted that high for very many reasons, that maybe hasn't been living up to that potential fully quite yet, is probably going to be in one of the best positions to achieve that this season, to achieve that right now. He's gone out there, he's put in the work, he looks absolutely freaking huge, but on top of that, I think being able to work in this run system with Greg Roman, with Jim Harbaugh, is going to benefit him tremendously. Okay. Now, I'm not the biggest expert in offensive linemen. I mean, really, who is? Outside of those guys that guilty as charged, right? They got a lineman on their squad there. I couldn't tell you the ins and outs of the position as well as the next guy, right? But what I can tell you is that I understand the situation that's been built for Zion Johnston. I can tell you the hype that the Chargers fandom had when he was drafted, and I think he's going to meet a lot of those expectations, a lot of those potential in 2024 with Jim Harbaugh. I think it's very exciting to think about what he could do here. Now at number 2, and we're going to continue this train, man. On that transition, on that segue, we're going to roll right into Joe Alt. All right. And this, again, the reason these guys are so high for me, Zion Johnston, first-round pick, has a lot of potential. I think he's going to start meeting that this season with Jim Harbaugh. Joe Alt, there's a lot of boxes being ticked here, okay? The one negative, and we'll get that out of the way right now, the reason maybe he's not number 1 right now is the transition from left tackle to right tackle, which I honestly don't think is a big deal at all. Everything we're hearing, everything we're seeing, it's a smooth transition. There's a lot of anxiety about that with another guy named Penei Sewell. He switched from left to right, and he turned out just fine. Joe Alt looks like the next guy, okay? Outside of that, he's checking a lot of boxes. He was a Jim Harbaugh, the first Jim Harbaugh first-round pick in the new Chargers era for a reason. He's the best offensive lineman we've seen since Penei Sewell for very many reasons, right? He's one of the biggest, I would say, cinder blocks and building pieces of this new offense for a reason. I think Joe Alt is going to be one of those stories that you see in the NFL come in his very first year and just be one of those top dudes in the league at that position. You know, it's going to be very hard because of how much, talent has been drafted in recent seasons with Sewell and Wirfs and et cetera, et cetera. But I think Joe Alt is going to take the league by storm. He's going to be a top 5 right tackle in the NFL his very first year. And he's going to be one of the biggest reasons why this running attack succeeds or fails. And I think it's going to be a very, very, very good bet to make that Joe Alt helps them succeed at that. He is such a huge difference maker at that position. Not as just what we were looking for before. Before, in the draft when we were all excited about Malik Neighbors and these skill positions in the first round, we were looking for guys in the second, third, fourth round that were really good run blockers, right? These guys in the line that can help us with the run. Joe Alt is the complete package. He's big, he's physical, he's fast as hell. He's really good as a run blocker, but really good as a pass blocker as well. He's as complete as you're going to ask of a prospect coming into the NFL. And when you put him in a situation like we just talked about with Zion Johnston, where Jim friggin' Harbaugh is his coach, where Greg Roman is the offensive coordinator, when you've got some of the best people in the NFL to help establish, talent from, college into the pros, I think Joe Alt is going to be a huge successful story for this team. All right. Last but not least, to round out this video, at number 1, my number 1 breakout candidate. Can you guys guess it? I think you can. There's one name I have not put on this list yet. His name is Ladd McConkey, one of my favorite players going into the NFL draft. Not just the Chargers afterwards, not post-draft, pre-draft. Ladd McConkey was my dude. There was very many situations. You guys go back and watch some of my mock drafts if you want to. We weren't always taking a wide receiver in the first round. Sometimes I think we took Joe Alt a couple of times. A lot of the times we were trading down. But there's a lot of situations where the Chargers did not take Neighbors, Odunze, or Marvin Harrison. And in those scenarios, 9 out of 10 times, I had my eyes on one player in the second round. Or even I would trade up in a couple of situations to go get Ladd McConkey. I think this is going to be a very, very, very special player in the NFL. Half of which because of how good he is as a player. I think his talent is remarkable. I think in any other NFL draft, he's a top 15 pick, right? It's oversaturation at wide receiver really helped us out in pushing him into the second round. I think his skill set in terms of separation, getting open, speed, everything looks absolutely insane. Maybe outside of his height and frame, right? I think those are the only things kind of holding back a little bit. But we've seen receivers like, Devonta Smith succeed in recent seasons despite those things. Ladd McConkey is as good as it gets, for me and the Chargers. But the other half of it is his situation. Wow. Chargers, we've had an identity at wide receiver for a long time. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. This is the first time in a long time For me personally, since before my son was born, which is crazy to think about, that we don't have that. And those are pretty massive cleats to fill. Lad McConkey, he's going to do just fine. He's going to do great, as a matter of fact. He's going to be put in a system where he's going to get opportunities and play action. He's not going to find very many other situations. But the biggest thing you got to think about is Justin Herbert and Lad McConkey. Herbert, as much as we want to deny it, he does have favorite targets. He's really good at spreading the ball around, but if you take a look at his career so far, there's one guy that stands above everybody else by a mile, and it's Keenan Allen. Yeah, he spread the ball around a lot, especially when Keenan wasn't there or whatever, but Keenan got a bulk of those targets year in and year out. A part of what makes Justin Herbert special, and yeah, a part of the reason why he succeeded is because of Keenan Allen. Now he doesn't have Keenan Allen. Instead, he's got a guy who shares a lot of traits with Keenan Allen. The availability being the biggest one. When it comes down to it, the pressure is on. We need this third down. We need this conversion. Who's going to be there? Not Slayer. McConkey Kong. Lightning Lad. Bad Lad. However, whatever nickname decides to stick, McConkey is the new guy. And he is so talented. And he is so unique in his skill set. And he's so fast that I think he's going to succeed beyond so many of our expectations in 2024. He's going to be awesome. He's going to be great. I think I had him down for over 100 targets in his rookie season, which is pretty impressive, right? I have him on 80 catches. I think he surpasses 1,000 yards. I think to play it safe, you can say between 800 and 1,000 yards. I think he can hit 1,000 yards, man. He had, what, like 16 yards or something ridiculous? Per target or what, I don't remember, per reception. I don't remember what his stat was. It was something nonsensical. I think he's going to make a lot of those targets. I call him Baby Bowers for a reason, Brock Bowers. He may not have the yak ability, but or in terms of physicality, but he certainly is fast. He could take it to the house. Maybe one of the fastest separators that we've seen on this team in a long time. And for those reasons, I think Lad McConkey, to me, is my number one breakout. And I think he's going to be an instant star in this league. Him and Joe Alt, this is why this draft is so impressive to me. I think both of those guys, year one, are going to be huge difference makers for this team and really are going to turn some heads in the NFL as wow. What a successful, what a slam dunk draft this was for the Chargers, to not just getting 2 starters, but 2 quality starters at their positions in the league. Lad McConkey, Justin Herbert, they're going to light the NFL up. They really are. Well, guys, in the comment section below, let me know some of your favorite breakout candidates and some guys that you think are going to shine through the offseason. There's some guys that we left off this list that maybe I considered not a breakout that they've already broken out, but maybe there's some guys on here that I didn't think of that you guys did. So thank you guys so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. I think we're like 100 subs away from 50K, y'all. Can't even believe that. Thank you so much for helping me get this far. As always, bolt up, stay frosty. Everybody get ready for the wrath of McConkey Kong. Take care, everybody.